Up, fam? It's your boy Chef Dunna and Stevie B. If you're tuning in, you're either on the YouTube, and you're definitely on the YouTube, but on the ShotCallers YouTube channel or the Dynasty Life Fantasy Football YouTube channel. So welcome all, welcome in. You know, we taking over, baby. We're talking Dynasty. We're talking redraft strategies. Flo's going to join us in a little bit, but Stevie B, how we doing? How we feeling? How we living on that East Coast night?
Good, man. Good. Not too bad. I mean, a lot is happening today with quarterbacks and contracts and stuff. So exciting, that as we're getting closer to the season, and then of course there's all the training camp hype that's going on as well.
Mhm.
So a lot of talk going around.
Yes, that's a fact. And so, with that, I mean, we got to talk about the biggest elephants in the room, right? I mean, it's money, money, money for days today. The NFL spent a shit ton of money on a couple quarterbacks, one surpassing the other, with Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa have agreed to a 4-year, $212.4 million extension. What does that mean for Dynasty? His value just went up. What do you think about
Yep.
Tua going into this season and beyond?
I mean, the main thing is we knew this was going to happen already. So he's been a value in drafts now for, 2 years in a row, basically,
Mhm.
like such a value because people were scared with the injury. And then he didn't have the contract either. They didn't play well in the playoffs. So people are a little bit down on him. But we know, especially in Dynasty, once people start getting the contracts, that's when, values start moving up and people just feel more safe about that certain player because of the contract. So, now you get Tua getting the contract, he feels like a safer QB. I mean, he's in a range where there's like a lot of QBs kind of in that same range. You got Dak, you've got Purdy, you've got like Trevor Lawrence, so he's right there with those guys. He only, what up, PB Dubs? But yeah, he only led the league in passing. I mean, and then we just were talking a little bit before we got on. But yeah, Mostert ran in a ton of tutties. I mean,
Mhm.
Achan had a bunch of touchdowns. Like, so is that going to keep up? Can he improve his touchdown? His touchdowns, and again, he led the league in passing. I mean, and that's only going to go up considering like Waddle was hurt for a lot of the times for a lot of the year last year, right? Week after week, he's kind of hobbling
Mhm.
around, with injuries. So that could even increase. Like, can he throw for 5,000 passing yards? I mean, we're expecting Cheetah to go off, right?
I
We're
mean,
expecting
for the
Waddle
next
to
few
go
years
off.
at least,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, so that means that Tua is going to be doing his thing. So, is it scary still about the whole concussion thing? Yeah, maybe, but I mean, we can't control that. So what we can control is what we know, and maybe he's not the best quarterback, but he doesn't need to be. So he's a safe dynasty quarterback now. So the value is gonna not be there now because now, like you said, he's gonna be moving up the rankings, and we can't
Mhm.
be late in dynasty. That's the main thing. Can't be late. Like, we know that contract was about to come. Jordan Love, same thing. We knew it was going to come, whether it was this year or next year. And people just don't value the quarterbacks as much until they get that contract, or any player really in that matter.
Yeah, and the biggest part about it too is that Raheem Mostert ran for over 1,000 yards. He was the he had the most passing yards in the league, while Mostert and Achane literally took Achane, excuse me, Devon, uh, took away a lot of yards from him. I mean, if Mostert got hurt and Achane got hurt, and they had to, you know, go with Salvin Ahmed or whoever they have in their backfield, in third and fourth string, or because also Jeff Wilson was hurt most of the year last year. So, I mean, if you plug that in, he's passing for over 4,500 yards easy. And especially with Cheetah and Jalen Waddle, I mean, two extremely good talents. And say what you will about OBJ, but I mean, he'll catch a deep ball here and there, and that'll just add value. He's better than Cedric Wilson. He's better than Braxton Berrios still, where those are like really gadget guys. And I mean, with Jonnu Smith too, finally have a semi-capable tight end. I mean, he could be a little bit of a late round sleeper, especially in redraft, if he's able to not only block for Achan and Mostert, but at the same time, if he's block and able to, you know, go into an out route, like come off the block, go into an out route, and actually catch the ball. And I mean, his yak wasn't that bad last year with Desmond freaking Ritter at the helm, and competing with Kyle Pitts too. So like, I think Jonnu Smith may have a little bit. I mean, he's the best tight end they've had since Gesicki like had his 1 year of like mediocre play. So I think the sky's the limit for Tua, and I think his value just skyrocketed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hold on, where would I have it? Just pulling up some stats from Tua. I mean, he was 9th in passing attempts, 7th in red zone attempts. He was 1st in passing yards, 10th in air yards. He was 5th in passing touchdowns. Like we say that 29 is not a lot, but he was 5th. Efficiency, I mean, yards per attempt, 2nd in the NFL. Adjusted yards per attempt, 4th in the NFL. Accuracy rating, 1st in the NFL. True completion percentage, 7th in the NFL. Deep ball completion percentage, 2nd in the NFL. I mean, what is there more to say? Like, he's a good quarterback. He's not amazing, but he can throw the football and he has great accuracy.
Yeah,
he's got all these fast guys around him, guys that can get open. All he's got to do is put it in the tight spot and you're good. And he's proven that he can do that. There's not really much bad to say about Tua.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Patrick Mahomes. We know that, but he's a damn good quarterback.
Yeah. And with losing record on the road, that's even better for fantasy. So for us, I mean, we're chilling. I'd rather have a losing record because that means more garbage time, and more garbage time means more late game touchdowns, late game yards, late game catches. They're not going to be running the ball as much. That's even more reason to look at Tua as a huge part of your dynasty team. And honestly, the window is closed if you were trying to buy him.
Would be the time to sell him.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get somebody in that same range, a T-Law, a Dak, like, and pick up another piece.
Mm-hmm.
What up, Diaz?
If y'all don't mind, smash that like, smash that subscribe wherever you are, whichever channel you are on. It goes a long way. Now moving on to another multi-million-dollar man. We have one of my QB prime to be studs in 2024. The heir apparent to the Brett Favre regime, Jordan Love. Jordan Love and the Packers agreed to a 4-year, $220 million contract that makes him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL history. He also gets a record $75 million signing bonus plus $155 million in new fully guaranteed money per Adam Schefter. And so, we're out here talking about how many homes he's going to be able to buy in Green Bay, because I guarantee you there's probably like $2 million homes there. And so that's only 10 million. I'm pretty sure he could buy the whole fucking city at this point. So, but for dynasty reasons, Jordan Love, I think honestly, even more than Tua, because Tua has done it for a couple years in a row now. His price, I thought, was a little higher, depending on your strategy and where you are in your dynasty regime. But I mean, Jordan Love, I think his value went even further than Tua.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was already considered a top 12 at worst, but he was almost like a top 10-ish quarterback for most people in dynasty. I mean, I have him as my number 10 quarterback. Ahead of Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Dak and those guys. So, he was already touted pretty highly, but now that he has a contract again, people start feeling more safe. So, he's going to start moving up again. Even this year, like Jordan Love, like at least early on from what I've noticed so far, Jordan Love has still been pretty much a value. Like I see him still drop into the 3rd round sometimes or late 2nd. And I think he should be up there in like the early 2nd, mid 2nd, when you're playing in Superflex. And, but yeah, I mean, he's got weapons around him. He was awesome this year. He didn't really start off that hot, but, he finished strong. I think he was 2nd in the NFL in touchdowns, 32, so DS said real reason they paid him because of the state of the QB. Are you talking about for Tua? Yeah, I mean, like I've always said, there's just not anybody better out there. Who else are you gonna go get? You know, and
Mhm.
the contracts are just getting heavier and heavier that you got to sign these guys now. You know, you can't wait. I mean, look at the whole Brandon Ayuk situation. Like
Yeah.
they could have been had him signed to a contract already, and now they waited, and the price is just going up and up.
Same thing with Jamar Chase. Same thing with CD Lamb. I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of players. I mean, Jordan Love's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL until Dak Prescott gets. There we go. Until Dak Prescott gets his contract, because Jerry Jones is about to sign him to a lifetime deal to make him the highest paid. I mean, if Jerry Jones can't have one of the highest paid position players in the league, then like Jerry Jones doesn't know who Jerry Jones is anymore. So there's definitely reason to believe that Jordan Love will not be the highest paid quarterback forever.
Of course not.
All right. So for now, that's all the breaking news we got for you. Who are some of your PB&J says
He's gone now.
Dak is gone now, in my opinion. Um that's funny. Dak to Vegas. I forget someone
I just don't see. There's no other options. Like, there's not. Who else are you going to go out there and get? Like, you almost don't have a choice but to pay him. Like, you've got CD Lamb. Like, what are you going to do? Just go get some other quarterback and not pay Dak? Like, who's really out there that they can go and get?
mhm. I mean, Shooter Sanders. I mean, they're gonna have to draft a quarterback next year, unless there's some god awful way that the Raiders are actually able to make the playoffs and are out of the top 10, which I mean, Gardner Minshew probably could lead them with Antonio Pierce showing that he has a locker room, but also with the fact that, I mean, Devontae Adams, I don't care what anyone says, he wants out. If they're not winning for the first 2 weeks, I'm sure he will be traded to the Jets. I'll say it on every cast until it happens.
I mean, it's a tough situation for Devontae. But I mean, they've got to figure out the quarterback situation sooner. It's just messed. Like, they need to just rebuild it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and Devontae's just kind of stuck in there now. Can they get out with the contract and trade? Like, can he possibly go to the Jets? I know there's big talk about that, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
So
mean,
unfortunate for him, and they need to get a quarterback because neither of those guys are the answer. O'Connell's
yeah.
not the answer, and Minshew's not the answer. So
And I mean that poses another question though, for if you're in startups, right? And you're looking at Garrett Wilson in the first couple rounds of Superflex, you're looking at Devontae Adams. I haven't done any startups this year. Is he going what, fifth, sixth round or later?
Garrett Wilson,
No, no, no. Devontae Adams in
Devontae.
Superflex.
I haven't done much startups or mocks either, but yeah, he's probably going somewhere in that range, maybe even later. I mean, nobody
Mm-hmm.
really wants Devontae. I'd never draft Devontae in a startup. He's
Mm-hmm.
just too old. It's a waste of a valuable pick where you can have an asset. Like, Devontae Adams is just not an asset. If you decide that you want to win now and you wind up getting a bunch of nice pieces and core pieces that you can build around, and now you're ready to just kind of add in some vets, then like, okay, maybe. But usually by the time he goes, it's just like not the right time to take him, if you're trying to be smart. So it's difficult for him there. But yeah, I'm not taking him in a startup. I'm just not. You just can't get much for him. There's no way out that kind of works. Can you pick up a second maybe in season? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. If he falls late enough, maybe. But there's just other guys that you want in that range. Guys that can gain value, be an asset where you can trade up, right?
Yeah, I drafted a win now team a couple years ago in this
Well,
auction dynasty draft that I was a part of with some other guys as well, like on Instagram too. And I was able to sell him last year because I knew I wasn't going to make the playoffs. And I'm just trying to pull it up right now, but I mean that's the thing, right? You want to wait with these guys, you're not going to really get anything until someone's panicking, right? Until uh, someone else's team is decimated with injuries, or just people are out for certain weeks and they really need to win. And so, I mean, I may like for the future, I was trying to trade away, and from camp reports now, shaping up to be a pretty good trade in my opinion. I traded away Devontae Adams and a 24 third, which was not mine, for Javonte, Dotson, and Wandale Robinson. So I mean, with that value towards the end of the year, and the funny thing is I forgot about this. I traded with someone was rebuilding.
They
But
took Devontae. So
yeah.
we did a mock about 3 weeks ago. Devontae went at the 7-1.
Okay.
But there's other guys. The guys in that range are, or at least in this mock, was like Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Cooper Kupp, Watson. I mean, and then you start getting into some of the later rounds, but like Chris Godwin, like I'll pretty much take all those guys almost over Devontae, guys that just have a little bit of value. Like people just aren't excited about Devontae right now.
Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't be either. I mean, he's definitely a redraft darling, but I'm staying away from him in any dynasty format. And as well, I mean, so that brings me to my next question. What do we think about Javonte's dynasty value with camp reports?
I mean, it's just talk really right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they were just trying to tell us that he was about to get cut. Now all of a
Mhm.
sudden, like, he's the cream of the crop. I mean, we knew there's no competition really in that backfield as far as talent. Like Javonte is just way more talented than anyone else in that backfield. But he was coming back from the injury. So, now another year removed now. So is he going to be better this year? Apparently he slimmed down to how he was in college. So we'll see how that works. But yeah, the talent is there. It's just like, okay, what is going to happen? Like, can we really trust Sean Payton to make him the workhorse? Like that's hard to trust. Like I'd just rather have a bunch of other guys than Javonte. Like now you might have a small window to try and sell Javonte, where he was kind of like unsellable before, right? We were getting reports he was about to get cut. Maybe somebody gets excited now. I'll take a second for him. Like, just get off my team. I'll buy someone else in season. Like,
Yeah, I'm still on the Javonte hype train. I I think that all this talk is, like you said, just talk, and need to see him in action. But at the same time, I mean, we all remember when Alvin Kamara was coming into the league with Mark Ingram and the Saints and Sean Payton, and all those years that Sean Payton was able to use dual threat running backs and really bring everything out of them and really make them make them the best running backs that they can be, and it helped Alvin Kamara carry it over to what the fuck is his name? The new coaching regime in New Orleans. And so with that, I mean, I really think there's an easy way for Javonte to be top 15, top 10 especially in rankings going into next year. And so with that, like he's going to be catching a lot more balls outside of he's going to be catching a lot more from the quarterbacks, because they got Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and Jarrett Stidham. And I know Zach Wilson can't throw accurately deep, and also Bo Nix is Bo Nix, and camp reports are coming out that he's doing well. But we all know what breeds this, and if you've been doing this for a little while, you know that camp reports are mostly bullshit until you get to the nitty gritty of the actual season. And the only camp reports you can trust are when people get injured. So with that being said, I still like Javonte. I think people were just bored and didn't have a narrative to write about him, so they got a lot of clicks for saying Javonte was going to get cut. But like PB and J said, agreed. Sean Payton RBs are legit historically.
And I love Javante. Like, don't get me wrong. I just don't necessarily want to bet on the situation. Like, I just don't trust it. Like, there's no reason to. Can I come off of Javante, who's what, RB 31 on Keep Trade Cut? Can I get a Tony Pollard, Zach Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, James Conner, Zach Moss, like Jerome Ford, Chase Brown? Like, I'll take any of those guys to get out of Javante, because I feel like you can possibly get the same production, or at least close to it, where it's not going to hurt you, and you can get a piece on top, whether it's a third round pick, or a second round pick. Maybe you add something else in the deal and get a second back
Mhm.
if you can. That's just the route that I would go, just kind of strategy wise. Like, I just don't want to bet on that situation right now. I'd rather take someone else and get a pick, and now, like, I have ammunition during the season to go out and buy a cheap running back if I can. What
Yeah.
up, Jay?
And I understand that sentiment for sure. And with the talk, I mean, the real talk is like it's like Pittsburgh light, right? Because you got Jaleel McLaughlin, who people were talking about, and he had great burst ability and was able to run north and south and east to west and catch the balls out of the backfield. Javante was still recovering, so he wasn't really himself. And the same exact fucking thing was happening with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. And so that's just another thing that needs to be played out. And I honestly trust Sean Payton so much more than I trust Arthur Smith.
I mean, McLaughlin is okay, but he's undrafted. Like, he's not realistically, like, he's not that. He's replaceable especially for a guy like Sean Payton. He's a pass catcher, right? They were talking about Blake Watson as like a CMC type. I mean, he just loves guys that can catch the football. So these guys are they're replaceable, and in Dynasty it's hard to make that bet on them. These are the guys that you want to fill all your bench with. Because you're just hoping for that chance, right? McLaughlin, maybe he gives you, 2-3 solid starts next year because Javante's hurt for a couple games. Like, that's all you're really looking for from some of these guys. It's just hard to make that bet, like, especially at the running back position. Like, I'm not trying to bet on any of these guys, really. Give me the cheapest guys that just have an opportunity to play. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any guys you want to touch on?
Really, I mean, I wasn't really thinking of any. Well, I made a trade today.
Okay, let's do
Let me
that.
see what. Let me. Where is it? Boom. So this is a 10-team superflex, start 9. So it is a little shallow, but where is it? All right. So I traded away T.J. Hawkinson, Darnell Mooney, and a 2025 second, and I got back Trey McBride and Matt Stafford. So a guy was trying to, I guess, like, rebuild a little bit. I was looking for to upgrade tight end from TJ Hawkinson, just because he's hurt right now, and I figured, maybe I can do something. So I wind up sending him a trade. I don't even think it was for McBride at first. I think it was for someone else, and then he countered with something with McBride, and I was like, okay, like, I'll take McBride. And then that's when he sent this, and he's like, "What do you think?" And I just instantly smashed it. It's like, yeah, I'll take McBride and Stafford. Like, you can have Mooney, who's not going to touch my starting lineup, because I got CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, and Marvin Harrison. So he's not touching my lineup. It's a shallow league at that. The bench is relatively a little shallow too. So if I do need to start somebody in the wide receiver position or flex position, like, I'll just pick up whoever I can on waivers for that week. Because it's not that big of a deal with the rest of my team, and I just stacked all my bench with running backs. Like, I've got Stafford and Darnold on the bench, and the rest of my bench is all running backs except for Shaheed, who I'm spamming everybody in the league for to try and get a third round pick, and then I'll just add a running back there. So, the roster construction with just the team that I have, like the why it doesn't make sense to hold the roster clogger wide receivers that are not going to make a difference in the lineup.
Mhm.
So I'm filling the bench with running backs. My starting running backs are Najee and Gus Edwards, and then I've got a whole bunch of running backs like Braylon Allen, Garendo, CEH, AJ Dillon, Chuba, Damian Pierce, Algier, Jerome Ford, Chase Brown. So just a bunch of those RB2s almost, and I'll just plug and play like every week.
Well, that trade deserves one of these. Whee! And I mean, I love those insta smashes, especially like from people that are hard to trade with, and then they just have such a skewed thinking of certain players, and then you're like, oh well, you know what? Boom, done.
It's just not about the players. Like it's just,
Mhm.
break them up into tiers and move up and down the tiers and gain assets. Like that's how you are able to purchase some of these elite players, right? You need some of the draft capital. You need, players that can get you into that conversation. So
Yeah. And all right, let's move on to some comments. Thoughts on Keon Coleman? I'm gonna say a little bit. It's being exploited a little bit with his nice highlight reel catches with no pads on and the defense not really playing too hard. So I mean, I think that's something to remember going into training camp hype. And then also, he has a big personality. So any big personality, especially in the state of New York, is going to get media coverage, and media coverage comes in so many different ways, and it's not just in New York City. So just, I mean, I would pump the brakes a little bit on if you're trying to buy him right now, because this is not the time to buy him. I mean, if you're trying to buy him, it's after a couple slow weeks in season, which I think will happen because I think he's not the wide receiver one in Buffalo.
yeah, I mean, he's just before all this happened right now and people are blowing him up, like wasn't that long ago where the coach was like, he's a rookie, like he's still
Mhm.
learning, where to line up and how to play in the NFL. So is he going to play X receiver where it's kind of his weakness a little bit, getting off the line and creating separation? Those are things that obviously he has to work on. And if he's seeing, the top corner and he's playing that X receiver, is it better off to put him in the slot maybe or move him around, try and,
Mhm.
get him off some of that press coverage? How good is he going to be? There's a ton of targets to go around. He's playing with Josh Allen. I mean, he can walk into possibly 10 tutties. Who knows? That like the upside is there, but we also have to be aware of what the floor is. And, usually most of the time it probably ends up somewhere in the middle. So, can he be, I don't see him being an elite, like wide receiver one for us for fantasy, but can he be a wide receiver two? Sure. Like I think that's
Mhm.
in the realm of possibilities. But will he be more of a wide receiver three? I think he's a guy. He's not a guy that the team is going to say, okay, we're not going to add to our wide receiver room, right? Brandon Ayuk
Yeah.
is available. Like they'll go and get Brandon Ayuk. You know what I mean? Like they'll add an elite wide receiver there. Same kind of situation almost with George Pickens. Like they were
Mhm.
looking into Ayuk. Like I think George Pickens could be the guy this year, and he might be awesome this year. But I don't think that in the future they're going to hesitate to go out and get a dominant wide receiver if they can. So that's kind of my thoughts on Keon Coleman. Like I like him; he's a likable guy, especially his personality, like you said. But for dynasty purposes, like can he be a wide receiver too? Yeah, but I'm not. He's a guy I'm not trying to bet on necessarily. To do that, like I'm not going out there and spending a first on him.
Mm-mm.
Don't do that.
When he wasn't even drafted in the first
So
round.
right. So like I said, the possibility is there. I'm not
Yeah.
denying that it's not possible that he can be, great, but we have to look at it realistically and then look at all the other guys in the league. Like where is he going to fit into the top 12?
Mhm.
Like, it's possible, but again, it's probably a long shot. Kincaid is probably the guy that's getting the most targets there. Like Curtis Samuel just got a deal,
Mhm.
and he's there now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deploy him and what they want to do with him. I mean, there's no doubt he's talented, of course, but can he be a wide receiver one is the main thing, and that's what I look for in dynasty. Like if you're not an elite player, you're just a replaceable guy that I can replace with anybody in that particular range.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the fact that Keon Coleman is on the Bills, like you got Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel just signed to the roster, obviously, and then, but you got to look at the two players that have been there for at least a year. You know, Dawson Knox will be involved. Dalton Kincaid has been there for a few years now. James Cook has been there for a few years now, and also has some really good receiving capabilities, and it runs in the family, right? And then also another guy people maybe just not be thinking about a little bit, but second year in the system, Khalil Shakir. I mean, he's not a big name, he's not a fancy name, but in a plug and play situation, I think with the right matchup, he could be a nice slot receiver for the Bills. And we all know what Josh Allen likes to do with slot receivers is he gets them the ball. They get receptions. So, you know, Keon Coleman, everyone is like, oh, there's no wide receiver one on the Bills. Well, I don't think it's Keon Coleman. I think, if anything, Dalton Kincaid will be used more than anything. So I agree with you, Stevie. So, alrighty, we got a Kenneth Walker trade here. Trading Kamara and a 25 first for Kenneth Walker, a 25 second and a 25 third. So, and it's 10-team Superflex. So you're trading, well, Kenneth Walker and a third for a first, right? And then you're trading Kamara for a second, basically. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair trade. I like it, especially if you're competing right now. I don't like sending away the first, but if you're in, well, let me rephrase that. If you're not contending right now, I don't like sending away that first round pick, because if you're going to be in the bottom of the barrel, but if you are competing and sending that away, I mean, I think that's a good value. I think Seattle's offense is going to take a step forward. I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we last were on. And I mean, look, Kenneth Walker missed 2 games last year, missed 2 games his rookie year. Also, they drafted Charbonnet, who took a little bit from him, but he still rushed over 900 yards in year 2, 1,000 yards in year 1. He took a step back in yards per carry, but and he's also catching balls out of the backfield. He had, in his 2 years combined, he has 72 targets. So, I mean, there is something there, and also with the new OC, they're going to be passing the ball more. Charbonnet is, they spent a good amount of draft capital. We'll see. The jury's still out on him, but I mean, I honestly like the trade. I think it's pretty even. And with Kamara, we don't know where Kendre Miller is going to fit in this year. There's also Jamal Williams is still on that team, so. I hope Kamara, because I traded for him in a couple of places, has another good year. But if you're competing, I like grabbing Kenneth Walker there.
I am not paying no damn first. I'm not paying a first for no Kenneth Walker. I don't care if I get a second and third back. I mean, this is what he said. Was this a 10-team? He said.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10-team Superflex. So yeah, I'm not paying up first in any format basically to go get Kenneth Walker. You got Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara last year was 3rd in fantasy points per game. So yeah, give me that production. Like, you're getting better production from Kamara most likely. At worst, you're getting the same production, but you're giving away a first. Like, that's the big thing. Like, no, I'll just take Kamara. Like, how much longer is Kamara going to play? How much longer is Kenneth Walker going to play? Kenneth Walker is young, but can we really guarantee any running back is playing for the next 3-4 years? Like, not necessarily. Like, I think you're getting almost the same timeline with Kamara of possibly 2 more years.
Mm-hmm.
And from what you're getting from Walker, and Kamara's giving you more points. Like, he's going to be outscoring Kenneth Walker. So no, I'm keeping Kamara and my first. I'm not doing that. If I'm going to spend my first, I'm getting an elite player. Like, I'm getting an elite player. I'm not going to spend my first for replaceable production of Kenneth Walker when, like I said, Kamara is going to give you more production. It's not always about trying to get the young running backs, especially because we can't predict how long these running backs are really going to play. There's not a ton of guys that play 6, 7, 8 years and have 3, 4, top 5 productions. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley. Like, what's Saquon? I mean, how many? Where's Saquon at? Let me pull up Saquon real quick. How many top 5 seasons does Saquon have? And he's considered an elite running back. He's got 3 top 10 seasons. He's got 2 top 5 seasons, and he's in what, season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he's one of those outlier guys that's elite, that's getting a workhorse load. Is Kenneth Walker gonna get a workhorse load for the next however many years and be a top 10 guy? He hasn't shown that yet. So, like, I'm not doing that. I'm keeping Kamara. There's no way I'm going to pay a first. There's very little running backs I will even entertain to pay a first for. It's really only like the top 4 guys. Like, after that, like, I'm not paying a first for any of those guys.
Would you pay a first for ETN?
No. Nope.
What about CMC?
I'll give you maybe a second plus. My first would stop at maybe JT. Like,
okay.
So you've got, Bijan, Brees, Gibbs, JT, and CMC. Like, that's the only guys really that I'm okay with paying a first for. In a super flex 12 team start 10. Now, when you start going into shallower formats like 10 team, or start 9, start 8, like, at that point the running backs are a little bit more worth it, because they make a difference more, because there's not as many starters. But this being a 10 team, like, I want hammers. Like, I'm gonna keep Kamara because of his upside and what he can do compared to Kenneth Walker. So yeah,
I get that. I personally really like Kenneth Walker this year. I think he can. You want to make a bet that he outscores Alvin Kamara?
Make a bet with you.
I don't know which we're gonna bet, but we'll figure it out.
It's possible. Now, again, it's not that I don't like Kenneth Walker. Like, I like Kenneth Walker. I have a couple shares. I have a couple shares of Kenneth Walker, but I'm looking at it more from just a strategy perspective of, like, replaceable points. It's a running back. Like, running backs will burn you. So I'm just not taking the chance on that. There's no way that I think, Kenneth Walker is just, that much better, or going to give you even the same production almost as Kamara. I'm just not going to spend my first on a running back. Like, that's not what I'm doing.
All right, we got another Seahawks question. Would you trade away JSN for Walker in a 25 third? And no, I would not do that.
Trade away JSN for Walker in a 2025 third in a 10-team superflex. How many starters is it, Jamie? I mean, it is a 10-team, so JSN is probably not even cracking your lineup, honestly, in a 10-team.
I don't know.
So if you can get a running back out of it and a third, like, I might be inclined to take that, depending on my roster construction, right? Do I have, other guys that I'm building around, other wide receivers? Like, if JSN is just sitting on your bench and you've got no running back, like, okay. But again, do we want to make that trade right now? Like, Walker could blow out his knee preseason. Like, I'm probably waiting a little bit, because I think this deal will still be on the table at that point.
Yes, but I mean, JSN has so much more potential, in my opinion, than Kenneth Walker does, especially in this new offense, even though I do like Walker in this new offense. And then the third is kind of just a throw in. For me, anything after the mid third round is I don't give two shits about. Like, don't try to smooth over a trade with a fucking fourth rounder. I don't care. I don't care at all.
It's not about the player that you're going to take there. It's just about the trade chip and the asset that you have. Like, I'm not trying to make all these third and fourth round picks, but I'll collect a shit ton of them, because then I could buy things that I want. People love this class. As once we got close to it and we had the draft, like, people would love these players. People are jumping into the third rounds, the fourth rounds, to grab these players that they like. And, you can use that to your advantage. Diaz here is talking about an Amon-Ra trade in one of our subscriber leagues, and he just spammed this guy, I think, with like a bunch of seconds and thirds. Let me see if I can pull up the trade here. So yeah, he bought Amon-Ra St. Brown and he gave up Brian Thomas, one 2025 first, and one, two, three 2025 seconds, and three 2025 thirds. So he just collected the picks and then just spit them out for an elite player. And he wound up getting an elite player. So that's really all that we're using him for. Or I'm using that in season when when Saquon Barkley goes down. Can I buy some kind of cheap running back for a fourth round pick, a third round pick, even if it's just for one game or two games, a couple games, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you had like Foreman come in and he was like decent for the couple games that he played, and you could have bought him for a fourth or maybe a third round pick just for a couple games. That's all that you need. And if you've got that ammunition, then you can use it.
So I guess his only running back is Najee and a bunch of nobodies like Vidal, Irving, and Tracy.
Like I said, you're fine for now. I mean, we're not playing any
Mhm.
games, so you're not actually, you don't actually have to start anybody. There's no game next week. So, I mean, I feel like that deal will still be on the table, once you get towards the season, and you don't know what can come up before then. Maybe you get a better trade offer or something else happens before that.
Mhm.
Like I said, I don't hate it. Like I'm okay with it in a 10 team, but do you want to really do that right now?
OG Raiders wondering, does the QB play for Neighbors or Harrison keep you away? Daniels his cheeks. Well, for Marvin Harrison, I mean the QB play is there. I trust Kyler, even coming off that injury. I think he may even pass more. So I like Marvin Harrison um, this year a lot. And then Neighbors, I don't know. He made some nice catches, but we'll fucking see.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, for redraft purposes, of course, we're way more confident in Harrison. For dynasty purposes, like Neighbors, he has the talent and he's valued pretty high. So not too worried about it for the future. I mean, situations change every year. Situations change every couple weeks. It's game to game sometimes. So
Mhm.
situations change all the time.
Oh, there he is in the chat.
Oh, Joe.
What's happening? Um, all right. Well, this is turning into a solely dynasty pod, but I'm not complaining. This is good. So let's see. I want to kind of go over a couple trades that I made in one of my dynasty leagues. Let's see. I made a grip of trades actually, like a week or two ago. I just wanted to reshape my roster. I wanted to get more running backs. I wanted some more picks. Um, so let's see. Just trying to find it real quick. All right. So the first trade I traded away. This was, I think, last season. This all kind of started last season where I traded away Cooper Cup for Michael Pittman and a first.
Oh
Um,
shit, nice.
yeah, yeah, it was one of those like, oh, really? Okay, thank you.
Right.
Um, and my buddy was like, thank God, because I have this nasty habit of trying to even get more. And so he's like, thank God you didn't ask him for a third.
No, sometimes you just gotta smash it. That's it.
Yeah, facts. And then I also was able to, this is very, very low end, kind of low bar. I got offered. This is actually the same guy that offered me this. He wanted Marvin Mims and a fourth, and he was willing to send me Brandon Cooks and Mike Williams. And I mean, for me, that's an automatic smash. I
So
mean,
you got Brandon Cooks and Mike Williams,
yeah, for the
and you
potential
gave up
upside.
Mims and a fourth?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take that.
yeah, for the potential
I mean, I'm not
upside there.
excited, but I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's kind of a trash trade. And
Brandon
then I
Cooks, I
would,
mean, very underrated right
yeah,
now. He's a value. Like he's basically, well, I guess you could say he's wide receiver three. Ferguson, maybe you can say is the real wide receiver too.
mhm.
But yeah, Cooks like quietly is like scored points the whole second half of the season.
Yeah. And then I traded away Michael Pittman, and I was able to get Ramondre and AD Mitchell, who I personally really like.
Traded who
I traded Pittman
for Stevenson?
and Adonai Mitchell.
I like that one.
I needed running back help. It was like
I don't
it's
like it, man. Forget the damn running backs. And you can find that shit in season. It happens all the time. Um, I mean, like I said, like I don't hate Ramondre. It's just the value aspect of it now. Like you're losing a guy like Pittman, and you're getting Ramondre, who yeah, he got the contract, but I mean, is he a top 5 guy? Like I feel if you're not top 5, I feel like that production is pretty much replaceable. There's just a ton of RB2s, so just like the wide receivers, like in that Pittman range, there's a ton of guys, kind of, a ton of guys in that range. Could you have like tiered down from Pittman to, I don't know, someone like T Higgins or Jaden Reed, and then picked up like a second on top of it, or maybe even a first?
Mhm.
Now you have ammunition to buy somebody in season, right? Because we don't know who's going to get hurt. A Derrick Henry in week 5, when that team is 0-5, they thought that they were contending, and now they just want to get it. They just want to get something for Henry,
Mhm.
and you can buy him for a second at that point, right? So those are the things more like that I try and do. Beef up your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, tight ends, and then when you're ready to really compete, then you can try and buy some of these running backs. But it's just hard to do it before the season because so much things like change and injuries happen, and if you're spending your picks before that, now you've got nothing to use to recover from that. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's tough. Like, I mean, I've got a running back rooms of like Derrick Henry and Rico Dowdle are my starting running backs in one league. Another league is Joe Mixon and Antonio Gibson. Yes. One league I'm is Roshan Johnson and Antonio Gibson. This that league I'm kind of rebuilding a
Sick.
little bit. But even competing teams like David Montgomery and Chase Brown, like those are my starting running backs. But my wide
Mhm.
receivers are like Jamar Chase, St. Brown, CD Lamb. Like I'm getting the elite players around it, so I can just have somebody like Devin Singletary. Could you have tiered down a little bit from Pittman and just got a Devin Singletary instead? Like he's going to give you decent production,
Mhm.
right? But just picking up as many assets as you can. So I don't particularly like that one, but that's just me, because I just hate running backs in Dynasty. Depending on the format, of course.
Mhm.
Shallower formats, these guys are going to matter more. But this one league, I got Singletary and Cordell Patterson right now.
Jesus Christ. Hell yeah.
But my wide receivers are sick. Like I've got CD, Chase,
Mhm.
Marv, Waddle, like. I've got other things because I'm not worried about the running back position. I'm okay with losing the first year. I'm basically just trying to stack assets as much as I can so I can buy, some of these wide receivers at the right times, right?
Mhm.
Jalen Waddle I was able to get for cheap. Like I paid a second and a couple guys. I don't even remember what it was, like right after the season, because he didn't play well necessarily like all season. So, people weren't on him. This was before he got the contract. So I was able to buy him at the right time for relatively cheap, with just some of the assets that I had. So,
Mhm.
like I said, I'll worry about the running back in season when I can just plug and play some of these guys, But my bench is full of the, Jerome Ford, Zach Mosses, like all of these kind of guys that have like opportunities to give you, decent points. So,
I mean, Jerome Ford is the next starting running back in Cleveland.
yeah.
Nick Chubb it's going to be tough, really tough. I don't care what the reports are. That injury was gnarly. I know he's squatting a shit ton, but he's always been able to squat a shit ton. But if his joints and ligaments can't hold up against, you know, 300-pound dudes over and over and over again, I think Jerome he's going to be eased back in. And last trade before we move on to the comments, because I really kind of like reshaped my team here. After obviously we went and talked about how I'm looking to sell Puka in pretty much every um, every league I'm in right now because I don't think his value can get any higher. The whole Matt Stafford thing, we'll see what happens. He's looking for a new contract, so we'll see if he gets extended. But I was able to, so I packaged Puka and Zamir White for Najee, Jaden Reed, Roshan, a 25 first and a 25 second.
All right, start over. Say that again.
All right, so I sent Puka and Zamir.
You sent Puka and Zamir. Okay.
Yeah. And then I got back Najee, Jaden Reed, Roshan, a 25 first and a 25 second.
25 first or 25 second. You're a running back lover, aren't you?
I upgraded
so you gave up Puka and Zamir. You got back a 2025 first and a 2025 second. And what else did you say? Jaden Reed,
Najee, and Roshan.
Jaden Reed, Najee, and Roshan. All right. I mean, that's not that bad.
And now I have 3 first-round picks next year.
Okay, that's good.
And I'm contending.
Okay, good. And you have Jaden Reed. So can you now move Jaden Reed in one of those first or 2 of those first? Can you get into the elite range? You know, can you get back up there and you still have, you know, the running backs or whatever that you got as well? So,
see, unfortunately, with this league, about half the league doesn't trade and doesn't even look at their fucking comments. So I'm trying to make do with what I got here. And I've literally sent trades where I lose, like by a lot, and no response, nothing.
Because Jaden Reed is just in one of those weird situations that, like, he's valued pretty high right now, but what if it doesn't go the way that we want it to go for him? Like, there's a lot of guys over there. What if Christian Watson stays healthy and he's balling, right? You know, Dubes is still there. Wicks is pretty good too. So it's, I don't know. So if you have a chance to use the opportunity of where Reed is valued right now, can you use him to tier up? You know?
Yeah.
Or tier down. Maybe you just want, maybe you can get some kind of old, like maybe you can get like a Terry McLaurin in a second, like, or something like that, where you're picking up another asset, but you're getting probably the same ish production as you were going to get from Reed, but at least you minimize your risk a little bit. You know, at that. So, you know, but for the most part, I'm trying to tier up from Jaden Reed.
FlowJoe is asking what you think about Fields for big Fergie Ferg super flex.
And in premium, I mean, yeah, I'll take Ferg. I mean, are we really gonna be betting on Fields now? Are we still betting on Fields at this point? Is he gonna? I think he'll get another opportunity, but I think his shot to become like a franchise quarterback is over. I think, you know, the league kind of spoke for itself. Like he can run the football, but he's not winning games for you, you know, or they're losing games. He's not processing good. Like, so I think it's kind of over for him, but yeah, I'll take the tight end if I need a tight end.
We got Brandon Cooks might be the most underrated player of all time. You know, he puts up very quiet 1,000-yard seasons with a good amount of touchdowns too, and his yards per catch is always above 12. So, which is great. Last year was just a little bit of a down year. I think he does bounce back this year. Second year in that offense, and honestly, if he bounces back, CD is probably wide receiver 5. Just because CD had gained all the targets last year. So, I mean, all right. Ricky P, Alvin Kamara, I'm guessing Drew Lock, and Gerald Everett for Pacheco, Bateman, and that dude Prince in Superflex.
Pacheco, Bateman, Ricky P, Alvin Kamara for Pacheco, Bateman, Prince. I mean, I don't really care about Prince or Bateman. Pacheco, okay, but you got Alvin Kamara and Ricky P. I'm taking Ricky P and Kamara side. I'll take the production from Alvin Kamara, and I'd rather have Ricky P than Bateman or Prince. or both of those guys together. And you're
Mhm.
giving up the quarterback in Drew Lock, where like, yeah, he's not much, but he's still a backup quarterback, and he could be valuable during the season because Daniel Jones is pretty garbage. So yeah, I'm taking the Ricky P and Alvin Kamara side on this one.
Mhm. Yeah, I like Pacheco,
I like him
and
too. I like him
it's
too, but is he scoring Alvin Kamara points? And again, like how long is Pacheco going to be putting up, top production? He hasn't even done that yet.
I mean, he did have top 5 production within the last 7 weeks of last year.
Didn't help you in the beginning of the season, but I mean, like I like Pacheco. Like there's a
Uh-huh.
chance that he could really, go off, but there's a lot of guys over there. There's a lot of guys on the Chiefs. There's a lot of guys to feed. Who's to say that maybe, Mahomes throws, 45, 50 touchdowns this year and Pacheco isn't running it in?
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty close. Kamara was 11, Pacheco was 15. Um, but
And Kamara didn't even play all the damn games.
that's true.
Like I said before, I think Kamara was what, third in fantasy points per
Uh-huh.
game? Yeah, 17.9. I mean, yeah, give me Kamara. I know Pacheco's younger, but it's just production at the running back position. I'm not, trying to bet on the next running back that's going to play, 7, 8 years in the league. Like it's rare that you get 6, 7, 8 years of top running back production. Does Pacheco have a chance to possibly get a contract from the Chiefs? Like, yeah, I mean, he's relatively cheap. They didn't spend much on him. But I think that he's replaceable. Like I don't think he's an elite outcome player. I don't think he's a difference maker type of player. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
I know it sounds like I hate all these guys, but I'm talking more in dynasty terms, in strategy terms, not necessarily just the players. Like I like these guys. It's just that, I want the cheaper option on most of the time. I don't want to spend up to get a Pacheco if I can just, spend less and get a Kamara, right?
Mhm. Uh, Diaz traded Puka Hollywood and 25 first for Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood's on the 1-year deal. You're trading a late first if you're trying to get into that elite range, because there's a chance now, like when Matt Stafford leaves, whenever that is, or that Puka doesn't have a quarterback at that time,
Yeah.
and then he floats from that wide receiver 5 down to wide receiver 12, 15, like because the quarterback situation is not there. Like a lot of these
Mhm.
guys just kind of fluctuate depending on the quarterback situation almost. So there's a chance that there might not be a Stafford and that value might shoot down. So can you take advantage now and get to the elite? Like that's always what I'm trying to do most of the time, is just get to the elite. How do I do that? Is gain as many assets as I can. I wound up buying Marvin Harrison in a 10-team super flex, start 9, and I spent what I spent. Damn, where's the damn trade? It was Kyron Williams, a 26 first. I'm trying to find it so I can know exactly what it is, but this is not going well. Well, hold on, it's here somewhere. Here it is. All right. I spent for the 101 to get Marvin Harrison. I spent Hollywood, Deontay Johnson, Kyron Williams, and a 2026 first. The wide receivers were just sitting on my bench because it's just start 9-10 team. Giving up Kyron, giving up a 26 first, and I get Marvin Harrison to add to a CD Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and AJ Brown. Josh Allen's on that team. That's a team I just traded for McBride also. So
Mhm.
I mean, just if you can gather up some of these assets and trade some of these guys, because there's just a lot of guys in that range. There's a lot of replaceable production. You can't really replace a CD production, a JJ production, Chase production. Like it's hard to replace that, but you can replace some of these wide receiver 2 production or RB2 production. That's all replaceable. And just in the value of them, a lot of people just don't value the running back. So I just don't prefer running backs in Dynasty. I'll buy them at the right times,
Mhm.
but that's going to be during the season, not right now.
Flo is wondering if we talked about his trades. Yes, we did. You're gonna have to rewind that tape and check your own flow and figure that out. And then, what's your outlook on Sky Moore? I'm so ready to cut him.
You
Cut
can get rid of him
him
now. And I love
out.
Sky Moore. I took a L on Sky Moore. I can admit that.
Same here.
We take our wins, we take our losses. But to be fair, they didn't really implement him correctly in that offense. They had him moving all over that first year, and then the next year where they signed Rashid Rice, they kind of put Rashid Rice right into that slot role where Sky Moore should have been. Like they try to play him outside, and he's more of a slot guy in the NFL, and it just didn't work out. So, I'll take the L on him. He's definitely just cuttable at this point. So yeah, don't worry about it. Just cut him and pick up a running back.
Yeah. A what? A what?
Pick up a running back. See, I have all the RB2s and RB3s and undrafted guys. Those are the guys I fill my bench with. So I'm building around strong wide receivers. I might have a few wide receivers on my bench, but for the most part, my bench is full of running backs and quarterbacks, backup running backs, right? We're trying to find the next Jerome Ford, Zach Moss. Those are the guys I'm trying to buy in season for that production. You could have bought Zach Moss last year for a third. You could have bought what's his name? Gus Edwards for a third or maybe even a second. Like, you could have bought these guys for cheap during the season for that production, That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to buy those guys.
Fantasy football role. Would y'all trade Pitts in London for Marvin Harrison in a Dynasty Superflex league?
In London? Well, I mean, how many starters is it? Is it tight end premium or not?
It's not tight end premium.
It's
Or it
not
is tight end. It is tight end premium.
It is how much?
How much is
Is
it?
it half a point? Is it a full point? Is it 1.75? He also has George Kittle.
11
starters. I don't know if I would honestly with 11 starters. It's a half point, so it's not a ton, but I spend a little bit more and get to the the CDJJ Chase Amon-Ra range. Like I like Marv, but it is a start 11.
Mm-hmm.
Pitts is on your bench right now, then I guess your team is pretty strong.
Yeah, but if Kittle's starting, he's only going to start 4 games, so you're going to have to plug Pitts in eventually.
Okay.
Flo is asking me to tell you about the last ops trade you did. I don't.
Well, I just went over, I think, two of my trades. So the one I got Marvin, and then the one I just got.
I think he was
got
talking
Trey
about
McBride.
One that I guess I fucked up or some shit. I don't know.
Oh, we said tell Stevie about the last. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I told him I didn't like the Stevenson one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not a bad trade. I just for strategy purposes, like I just feel like there's better ways that you can move to get that kind of production that you're looking for.
Yeah. What's up, Joe? How we doing? How we feeling? How we living? Fantasy FlowJoe, RB hater. Nice. The Joes are going at it.
Listen, I'm winning ships without these, with these expensive ass RBs. Give me the elite wide receivers and I'll put together a running back room that works.
Danny Thomas is wondering, is Demario Douglas the Pats #1? What's your outlook on him and Shakir in Buffalo? I lightly touched on Shakir in Buffalo. I think Shakir has some underlying value there. Second year in the system, like Kincaid as well. And then you got 2 new guys coming in. I like CSAM as well. I think all of us do. But Demario Douglas, the Pats #1, I would say yes.
Most likely. I mean,
and don't
forget Kendrick Bourne was actually like pretty damn good for the time that he played. And I know nobody really kind of thinks about him, but like he was actually playing pretty good. But yeah, I like Demario Douglas. I mean, I don't know if they even have a real like #1. Is it going to be spread out a little bit? Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I like Douglas. But again, it's not like I'm not betting on that.
Mm-mm.
can you pick him up for relatively cheap? Probably. Can you get him thrown in a trade or something? Like, I mean, I have him in, I think, 2 leagues, but he's sitting on my bench, just waiting for his value to kind of go up a little bit once he gets back in, and then you try and move him at that point. Again, not that I don't like him, but again, if you're not an elite difference maker, like, I can replace that with other things. You know, again, moving up and down tiers. That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. And like Stevie was saying, Demario Douglas, if you can attach him once the time is right and the price is right, to get that elite wide receiver, I think that would be more fortuitous than anything. Let's see.
Add a pick on top of him and get like a Christian Kirk.
Yeah. So Rolls lineup is Burrow, Caleb, K9, Swift, AJ Brown, Neighbors, London, DK, T. Higgins, Pickens, Kittles, and Pitts.
J. Brown, Neighbors, London, DK, T. Higgins.
I mean, honestly, dude, I would try, and if you can package Kittle on London, that would, I mean, but I don't think he would go for that. I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised he's even trying to trade away Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. But at the same time, like, if you can go London,
I'll take it. You know, it's not tight end premium. I'm okay with just sticking with Kittle. You have to. You're gonna have to give up, you know, Pitts and London to try and get into that Marv range. So, I mean, before I do that, I talk to the other managers, right? Talk to the JJ owners, Chase, CD, Amon-Ra. Like, start from the top and work your way down. You know, make sure that that's the best deal that you can get for that necessarily, you know, for that combination.
I like it. Well, it's midnight where you are, and the comments have slowed a little bit, so I think this is a good time to wrap up. We were going to talk some different redraft strategies, but we're just going to have to do that another night. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in.
What happens when you talk Dynasty? It just goes. Like, there's just, you know.
It's great. I mean, I've come to love Dynasty in the past like 4 or 5 years, and it's been, I mean, it's year round, right? And so, like, one thing that a caveat that if you're a commissioner of a league and starting a startup league, make sure you have diehards in that league, or you're going to be sitting on your fucking thumbs for so long. So, speaking of thumbs, smash that like, smash that subscribe. It really does go a long way. Thanks so much, Stevie, for joining me and staying up a little later. Shit, it's almost past my bedtime on the West Coast because I'm becoming that old geezer.
Right. Just one last thing for Joe. Joe said Xavier Legette will be on all his teams. And my response to that is Deontay Johnson will be on all mine.
Hell yeah. And with that, we bid you adieu, and we'll be talking shit next week. So peace and love, y'all. Like and subscribe on Dynasty Life and on the Fantasy Shot Callers. Goes a long way. And we see y'all next time. And make sure to follow us on Instagram too. We got a lot of hot shit coming out. So peace.